I am just absolutely living for how the writers were like, you know what? This movie, we're no longer implying that Eddie and Venom might be a couple, might not be, who knows, it's up for interpretation. No. We're just gonna state it as a straight up fact. But before we get into that, what is up, my dudes, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, what's up? I am One Creative Ginger, and in this house we have incoherent rants about movies, TV shows, and anything fandom related, all while dressed in cosplay. So like and subscribe if you want to see more of this. So this one starts off where the last one basically ended up, you know, with the end credits and all that. So we left with Eddie interviewing a serial killer named Cletus Cassidy, and we get to see that Eddie is having some issues with a police officer named Mulligan, who really wants to know where Cletus buried all the bodies and is totally just on Eddie's ass to be like, hey, he's only talking to you. You need to figure out where all the bodies are, right? And of course Eddie's like, well, you know, I'm gonna get to that once he, you know, eventually tells me, you know, that things like this take time, you know? During one of the encounters with Cletus, Venom actually ends up noticing these drawings that he's drawn like all over the prison walls that he's like etched in, and he notices this one specific one that has like some crosses and it looks like some sort of, you know, landscape, right? Yeah, and when they get back to Eddie's apartment, Venom's able to find which beach it is, and the only problem I had with that scene was like, why didn't you just start with like the beach drawing and then like open up like 50 different tabs? Because like we see Venom can like go really fast with like relaying information, so like why can't he like go on the internet and do a bunch of Google searches and open up like 50 different tabs and just go like research really fast, or like open up Google Maps or something and find the beach that way? Because like he just immediately knows what the beach is, which is kind of weird. And it has that problem when Carnage pops up and, you know, they're trying to find Cletus's girlfriend, you know, and he just kind of like does this the way that they did the like super secret password thing, that didn't make a whole lot of sense either, because it was just kind of, you know, lame, you know. Like you could have done something like that where you're like opening a bunch of tabs and like going into the dark web and finding, you know, her that way. Just, yeah, I don't know, that whenever the symbiotes interacted with the internet, it was just kind of weird, because like they immediately knew everything on how to get it, which, I mean, we see in the end credit scene that they might actually already have known that knowledge, because they kind of like know everything about the universe to a certain degree. Like Venom talked about that, but I don't know if he was full of shit or not, but like, yeah, he does say that, so maybe like they do know exactly what everything is, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, I don't know. That was just a little weird. Other than that, I did like the whole drawing thing, but like, yeah, it kind of does remind you of the stupid dagger from, I think it was The Last Jedi, whichever sequel that was. I'm pretty sure it was The Last Jedi. Yeah, when they had the dagger and it just automatically lined up with the wreckage. It's like, yeah, I don't know, it's hard to do that because like aesthetically it looks good, you know, like it looks nice, but like at the same time it's like, how does that make a whole lot of sense? It's kind of like with the landscapes change, and with like The Last Jedi with the dagger, it's like it was a Death Star wreckage, and that could change really easily, you know? So it's like, oh yeah, it's just the problem with those like matching up to the landscape things. Those can be weird. It's just, yeah, it's not the best. So since Venom's able to find the beach where all the bodies are buried, and Eddie tells the police where it is, he ends up being like this hero for finding where all the bodies are buried, so then, you know, the families of the victims can finally have closure, you know. So since that's a whole big thing, you know, obviously Cletus finds out about it, and he ends up sending Eddie a postcard and telling Eddie that, you know, it's not fair, you didn't tell the whole story, you know, about what happened to me. And the whole time he's like narrating what he wrote on the postcard, they have like these fun little animated stick figure guys that are like animating what really happened to like Cletus and why he became a serial killer, you know? Like, that was cool. I liked that that was a choice that they did, because they did a really good job with that. I really liked that. It was a great way to tell his, like, horrific backstory without, like, getting too violent. And, you know, he says later on that, you know, he's just this scared little kid that's trapped, you know? And with this animation, like, it's very childlike, and so it does show his, you know, scared little kid that's trapped, you know, like, through the art style of this. I really liked that. I thought that was a good choice. So, obviously, Eddie goes in for another interview with Cletus, but shit goes sideways pretty quickly because, you know, Cletus is trying to get under Eddie's skin, and Venom ain't having it, and so he ends up attacking Cletus through the bars of the prison cell, and because of that, Cletus ends up biting Eddie's hand, and he tastes Eddie's blood, and he's like, oh, I've tasted a lot of blood before, and yours tasted a little weird. Wonder what's up with that. And then, you know, as Eddie's leaving, we see, you know, there's some blood on Cletus's face, and we see it move, and then he, like, eats it. So it's like, what's going on there, you know? A little suspicious, right? So obviously, that's Carnage, and he ends up manifesting when, you know, because obviously Cletus is sentenced to death by lethal injection because they finally found where the bodies were, you know, so he's being injected, but Carnage ends up coming out just in the nick of time, and it's a great scene. Like, they did a great job with making him, like, so creepy. It's so great, and he definitely gives off, like, the serial killer vibes. It's really cool with, like, how sharp he is, because he kind of looked like Riot from the first movie, but a lot different. Like, they had similarities, but, like, Carnage was totally different. Like, it was really cool to see how they were able to do that, because, yeah, like, Carnage was, like, sharp and, like, gooey, where, like, symbiotes, they were kind of gooey, but they were more, like, fluid, if anything. Like, they were all just, like, stringy and liquidy, you know? Carnage wasn't any of that. He was just, like, eh. Oh, he was like that magnetic sand, kind of. When you put a magnet, it goes, eh. That's what he looked like when he moved, you know? So, obviously, Cletus ends up escaping, and he goes to find his girlfriend named Frances, and she has some sonic powers, so that doesn't really work well with symbiotes. They don't do well with that high-pitched noise, so but, like, honestly, I liked their romance. It was very sweet, because we get to see that Frances was, like, his only friend, and she actually saved him from bullies, and honestly, that's very sweet, that he's still they're just very loyal to each other all these years. And it was cute, because he finds, like, he remembers her favorite car, and he actually ends up finding it and stealing it for her, so when he goes to get her out of, like, the asylum or wherever she's in, she gets to see her favorite car when she gets out, and he was just like, yep, I remembered, and I was like, that's sweet, you know? They're both absolutely insane, but, like, that's sweet. Back to Eddie and Venom, they end up getting in a little lover's quarrel and end up fighting each other, and it's just the most ridiculous thing, because, you know, they're attached to each other. Like, what the hell are you gonna do, right? But, like, it all starts because, like, Venom's like, I don't want to be a secret. I don't want to be hidden away from the world. And of course Eddie's like, well, I don't want you eating people, and, you know, we're kind of being investigated by the FBI right now, so, like, we have to lay a little bit low. You can't just go eating people's heads off while we're being investigated, you know? So, like, obviously Venom's not having it, so he wants to go, and he does. He actually leaves Eddie's body and just fucks right off to go do whatever shenanigans he wants to do. And Eddie's just like, well, okay, I guess. I liked how they did that scene where it was just ridiculous, and but, like, also kind of sad too. Because we do see later on, after they've had a little bit of time away from each other and they've calmed down, they're all just kind of like, damn, shouldn't have done that, you know? And I'm just like, it's sweet, but, like, oh, ow. So Venom actually ends up going to like this little rave party thing, and he literally says he's coming out of the Eddie closet, you know, and has this whole monologue about not liking how Eddie was keeping him a secret from the world, and he just wants to be himself. And it's like, yo. Like the queer undertones that they had in those scenes, like it was like, yo, the metaphor I appreciate very much, because everyone in the rave is just like, hell yeah, dude, be yourself, you know, don't let him keep you a secret, right? He doesn't want to be a secret, like he wants to do his thing, he doesn't want to just, he doesn't want Eddie to be like ashamed of him. It's so, it's, yeah, it really gets you right in the heart, you know. Then Eddie gets detained by Mulligan because, you know, Cletus was able to escape, and they're not really sure how he did it. And of course, Eddie's the last person he really talked to. So Mulligan's obviously like, okay, you have to have something to do with this. You gotta know how he escaped or where he is, that kind of thing, you know. So obviously he ends up asking Anne to go find Venom so like he can break out and deal with this shit, because, you know, there's a serial killer on the loose with a symbiote, so obviously he can deal a lot of damage, and he doesn't want Carnage running around, you know. So yeah, so she's able to find Venom, who's attached to Mrs. Chen, and yeah, their whole little scene was so funny where she's trying to get him to come out, and he's just like, no, Eddie was mean to me, I don't want to come out, that kind of thing. It was like, it was fun. But of course, you know, Eddie ends up apologizing to him, and it's really funny because, you know, he's technically apologizing to Anne because, you know, Venom's attached to her and he doesn't want to come out because he's like, no, Eddie was mean to me. But they do end up reuniting, and then Venom's bonded with Eddie again, which is very nice. Back to Cletus and Francis. So Carnage, they know who he is now, and he ends up saying that he wants to kill his father, which is Venom, you know, and Cletus wants to kill Eddie, and Francis wants to kill Mulligan because he's the one that, like, shot her initially. Like, that was a scene in the beginning. So they all want revenge, right? And so they end up kidnapping Mulligan, and also Anne, because they plan on using her to lure Eddie and Venom to the church, you know, because they're doing this whole, like, marriage ceremony, and they want this whole, like, crazy thing, you know? And I did not like that whole thing where they use Anne to lure them to the church. It's like, first of all, there's literally no reason for it, because, like, Eddie already wants to find Carnage and Cletus, because he's like, he's gonna kill a lot of people. I don't want that to happen. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, because you didn't really need that motivation. And she was just kind of there the whole time. Like, there was really no reason for her to be there. And it just came off as the whole, like, ooh, save the girlfriend, you know. Even though, like, we see that she's clearly not his girlfriend anymore because she's engaged to Dan, that we find out. There's no reason for it because it doesn't, like, win her over at all because she's already made up her mind with Dan, right? So it was just weird. That whole thing they did with Anne it seemed very pointless. I was not a fan. I don't think it worked the way they were trying to do it, you know. It was just weird. So, of course, then Venom and Carnage end up fighting, and they have this scene where the bells go off, and, like, the symbiotes would, like, obviously be like, ugh, no, go away, right? So they do that, and then, you know, Cletus would have, like, this monologue that got split up between the bell chimes, which was a really good choice. I don't know. I just really liked how it was, like, split up. So, you know, they'd be fighting, and then the bell would chime, and then the symbiotes would go away, and then Cletus would say something and, like, try to kick Eddie's ass, you know, that kind of thing. And then the whole thing would repeat over and over again. I liked that. It worked really well. I don't know. The way they did it worked really well, and I liked the camera work that went with it. Like, it was good shit. I had a fun time watching that little monologue that Cletus had going on, especially since it was, like, you know, about him being abused by his family, and that's why he killed them, but it's like, then that spilled over into killing other people, right? So it was like, it was interesting. I liked how they did that scene. But of course, obviously, Venom ends up defeating Carnage because Eddie's able to notice how Cletus is fighting Carnage, because every time Frances tries to help, she obviously tries to use her sonic voice, but like Carnage doesn't like that, so he tries to hurt Frances, and every time Cletus always tries to like fight him and is like, don't hurt her, I don't want that, which is nice, you know. He does love her and he does want to protect her, and that's good shit. But it was like, yeah, it was interesting because, yeah, he was fighting Carnage a lot of the times when it came to hurting Frances, you know. But yeah, so obviously she ends up dying from one of the bells falling and crushing her, you know. And then Venom ends up eating Carnage, which is a crazy looking scene where it's just like, eh, but he eats him. And then, of course, he bites off Cletus's head because he's like, fuck this guy. And he eats his head, which is great. And of course, Anne is obviously safe as well, so that's good shit too, because she's still a great character. I just didn't like what they did with her with the cathedral thing, you know, just, nah. But she ends up saying her goodbyes to Venom and Eddie, who have to leave because obviously they're on the run now because they kind of broke out of that holding cell, so, you know, the police aren't a huge fan of that. Also being investigated by the FBI too. So it's like, yeah, so obviously they're going on the run, and yeah, they basically say goodbye to Anne, and she says goodbye to them because, yeah, she's made her choice. Like, she wants to be with Dan, and she can't really handle the crazy shit that goes on with Eddie, you know. Like, she'll support him, she'll help him, you know, because she does help him in this movie, like she does in the last one, you know. But like, yeah, she's done with that. Like, that's not her thing anymore, and like, obviously they know that too, so it's like this nice little official, like, yeah, this is over, or at least that's how I see it, because like, yeah, it's officially over, like, you know, she's with Dan now, and then Eddie's got Venom now, right? It's nice. I don't know, I liked that scene where they said goodbye. It felt complete, you know. I liked it. So of course, since they're on the run, they go to like a beach in some Caribbean environment, you know, and this is really cute because Venom actually legit says that he loves Eddie, and it's just really cute because, like, Eddie's, you know, obviously giving him some shit because he's like, what did you say? And Venom's like, whatever, it's not a big deal, you know, I said what I said, but like, whatever, right? I like that. That was cute. So, we also get to see what happened to Mulligan during that whole fight, because like, he was fighting Frances at one point, but he ends up not being dead, which is pretty crazy because it looked like she like straight up broke his neck at one point by hanging him from a chain, right? But we see that his eyes are glowing blue, so what's up with that, you know? Because it's like, and I don't know, considering like, it's obviously there's got to be another symbiote that's gonna pop up, like, you know, like, because obviously these little slimy bastards seem to reproduce asexually, because that's how Carnage was born, you know. He was just born out of like serial killer blood, I guess, you know. Right? So like, obviously they kind of like spawn asexually, so that's pretty cool, honestly, because like, I would like to see more little symbiotes, because yeah, I'm pretty sure Venom has like a bunch of kids that are like insanely homicidal, right? So like, we're gonna see more of them, obviously. Like, there's no way they're just gonna stop with Carnage, right? So then we get to the end credits scene where Venom ends up sharing with Eddie some like symbiote universe knowledge, because apparently they know a bunch of shit, right? Because they like, yeah, I don't know. He's just like, yeah, we know all this crazy shit that your little tiny brain could never comprehend, right? So I'll give you a little taste of it, right? So apparently that somehow teleports them to like the actual MCU, you know, that's, you know, with the whole Endgame and that kind of shit, right? Because apparently that's not where they were before, right? So they end up getting teleported there, and we get to see, we see a TV that's playing a news story about Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, and then it just ends there. You know? So it's like, what's gonna happen with that, right? Oh, this was so fun to watch. I love the whole queer undertones and like the coming out metaphors in the movie, and the fact that the writers were not afraid to do that. They just were straight up, yeah, we understand that it's pretty gay. They're pretty gay for each other. Like there's no way around it, right? So, and they rolled with it, and I really appreciate that, because yeah, not a lot of shows really do that, or creators really do that. They'll just be like, ooh, we gotta downplay this shit, right? You know, because Marvel's done that before. You know. Yeah, this movie had a different vibe than the first one, you know? Probably because the villain was a lot more creepy and insane. Like, Carnage was just like, we're gonna eat people, we're gonna kill people, you know? And I was just like, okay, And yeah, with Cletus being a serial killer and being part of Carnage, you know, yeah, it's gonna get creepy. Carnage was a lot different, and yeah, the fact that it was a little more superhero-y than the last one, yeah, it just had like a different vibe to it, which was honestly kind of nice, because yeah, you got to see a different thing happen. Like, it wasn't just, you know, oh, another villain taking over the world. Ooh, no, it's just like, first villain wanted to just kill everyone but take over the world, you know, that kind of thing. But like, with Carnage, it was like serial killer mode, right? Where it was just like, Carnage. Legit, that's what it was, you know? And then Carnage being Venom's child was really cool, because I liked how he was like immediately like, I want to kill my own father, right? Like, I don't know if that's like a symbiote thing, or like the fact that he was connected to a serial killer, and that's kind of how he was created, was like born from serial killer blood, right? You know, I don't know if it was that thing, but like, yeah, this is just a fun little alien queer rom-com, and I really want more of this, because for one, it didn't take itself too seriously, and it also had a lot of fun, and it was just, it really shows, because yeah, I had fun watching this. I was like, this is entertaining as hell. It's like, I want to see more of this, you know? It's like they had so much fun writing the story and the characters, because, you know, they weren't taking it too seriously. They just wanted to be like, hey, let's make it weird and also gay, you know, because we're leaning into that, right? And just like, I am totally there for that, because like, hell yeah. More of this in the future. You know? So yeah, that's basically all I have to say about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. If you guys have any thoughts and feelings about this, share all that good shit in the comments down below. If you're interested in following me on other social media, I post art and cosplay related content on my Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Twitter, if you'd like to get weird with me. So if you enjoyed this video, why not like, subscribe, and smack that bell if you'd like to see more of my face every Saturday when I post a new video. And don't forget to stay sparkly, my dudes!